Okay, good morning. This is for day number 4 in the course IADC called Tubing Supervisor. We're going to cover the last section for the cold tubing part, so I will share the presentation. This section is talking about the last section in the course. It's talking about what is the cold tubing emergency procedure, or what can happen during normal cold tubing operation lead to well control events, and how to deal and take the quick action to secure the well by the correct way. This cold tubing emergency procedures is coming from mostly from the API standards. It is just recommendation. It can be varied from location to location, or based on well conditions, the leakage at type for the fluid at the surface, the position for the cold tubing inside the well, and also maybe based on the wellhead pressure. What is the wellhead pressure at the surface? And also the decision can differ a little bit from situation to situation, based on the decision and the experience also for the cold tubing supervisor or cold tubing of crew at the location or on the location. Let's start first situation. First one is platform shutdown, or you are working in rigless operation and there is alarm for evacuation or to release the location or shut down the platform and offshore. So what is the steps you need to do to secure the cold tubing operation? So here you need to suspend cold tubing operation and make the well safe. So first step usually start to stop cold tubing movement. Number 2, stop pumping. Number 3, close slip ram and lock manually. Number 4, you need to close the pipe ram and lock manually. Number 5, you will go to the master point, wait for the instruction. If the decision is to evacuate the location, you should be close the shear seal above the Christmas tree and drop the coil tubing inside the wellbore. Second situation, or situation number 4, you are working in coil tubing operation job and you have completely power back failure. You know, the power back failure gave the supply for the power for pulling and running the coil tubing movement. At that moment, the pumping is not affected because the source for to running the pump is external source from the power back. So first action, you will go to close slip ram and lock manually, close pipe ram and lock manually. This is for security, for more security. Number 3, you will apply real brake if it is not fail safe. Applied, it should be automatic. If not automatic, you will make it by hand. Number 4, you should or you must not shut down the pump. You maintain circulation. The pump is running, so that's why you will not get any stuck with the coil tubing, especially if you are going to do some clean out job or milling job. Number 5, you will take action to repair power back, or in some time you need to replace the whole power back system with new one. Then you are going to equalize the pressure, open the rams and resume your operation. Another coil tubing emergency procedure, pump failure. You have total pump failure. Usually when you have pump, you need to have twin pump inside the location. One is backup to the running one or the primary one to not lose time during the operation. So the action here, you need to pull coil tubing some distance above, like encased hole, to be free from stuck or solid sticking. You close the slip and pipe ram and lock manually. This step is for more security. Number 3, you need to check if the coil tubing check valve is downhole check valve hold the pressure. Then in this case, you will close reel isolation valve or low torque manual valve outside the reel to isolate the reel from the pump and switch to spare pump if available. If there is no spare pump or backup pump, you need to consider pulling to safe distance or to surface. This can be very based what is the depth you are running at now. Secure the well waiting for pump replacement. Then when the new pump coming, you'll start to run back to the bottom after you open the pipe ram. Then you continue your operation. Another situation like check valve is or are not holding pressure. You know that the check valve is the primary barrier from inside the reel itself, so you must have dual check valve holding pressure from below. If you have any leak or coil tubing at the surface, so this check valve will prevent the escape or the flow to coming through the coil tubing. So here we cannot continue our operation with failed check valve. We need to pull out to change the check valve as soon as possible. First option, if possible, to pump down fluid and pull out to surface to change the check valve. It is depend on the type for job, what you are doing now or what you are pumping in the well, and also based on the well head pressure for the well. If not possible to do this one and pulling out with pumping, so we need to pump kill fluid, pump the kill fluid and kill the well to be insecure, or you have hydrostatic hit for the brine, which is the primary now instead of check valve. So you can pulling out to the surface and change the check valve assembly with new one, tested first, then run back to the bottom to continue. So usually here, the first option you will find you need to find solution for the current situation. Second option here is to kill the well, and usually killing the fluid is a part of contingency or emergency plan. You need to have kill fluid on the well site stored and mixed inside 2 or 3 frac tank, enough volumes to kill all the total volume for the well. Another situation here, surface equipment leak. You have lubricator connection above safety head or below the quad BOB is leaking. So like this point here, you have section lubricator is leaking in this area. This below the quad BOB and above the shear seal. So what is the steps can we do to make the well safe? First thing is stop the pump to check if any flow or pressure at surface or not. You need to slow down or stop the pump to see the intensity for the flow at the surface from the leak point. If there is no pressure, that means only leakage without high pressure at the surface, you can pull out the hole while pumping down the coil tubing to keep the hole full till above the PUB. Then you will close the Christmas tree valves, repair and disconnect the leak point. Number 3, if there is leak, if there is surface pressure, you need second option to kill the well to have 0 wellhead pressure. Then you close, after you pull out of the hole, close the Christmas tree valves, repair the leak point. If there is severe leak, number 4, this is the worst condition. If there is severe leak, is out of control, like you have HOS in the well, you need to pull out like 10 meters fast. If you are on bottom, so you have space inside the well from the bottom, you will shear the pipe with the shear seal or the safety head. The last option we'll use to cut the pipe. The pipe then will drop down inside the well, so it will be far away from the Christmas tree valves, so you can close Christmas tree valves safely or freely, fix the leak point, prepare for next operation, which is fishing operation. So you will find the steps here, start to try to deal with the problem. Second option, to kill the well, and usually killing the well during coil tubing is only during the emergency situation. Third option or last option is to cut the coil tubing drop in the well, because this step will cost more for the operation, like fishing operation. Clear?
Clear?
Yeah.
All right. Another situation which common, it can happen during the operation, you have a stripper leak during the coil tubing running or pulling. Stripper should have hydraulic pressure to make more energized for the packing element, just to stop the leak for the coil tubing without cause damage to the pipe. In this case, you will try to increase the hydraulic pressure on the stripper assembly just to stop the leak, not to continue the operation. If not, so you will stop coil tubing movement. You will apply the second option, which is secondary barrier. You close slip and pipe ram lock manually. Inflow test the pipe ram and check integrity, its holding pressure from below. You will release any pressure above. Energize backup stripper if installed, if you have dual stripper, so you have now two barrier to fix the upper stripper. If not, so you will bleed off pressure. You will replace the stripper packing element with new one, check the system or the non-extrusion ring. Then you will install new one, connect again, then equalize the pressure, open the well, and continue normal operation. Another contingency plan, like hole in the coil tubing above the stripper. Visually, you can see you have pinhole or hole or leak in the coil tubing at the surface. For example, you have here between the reel and gooseneck, you have certain leak at the surface. So what action can be taken? First action, stop coil tubing movement. Number two, reduce the pump pressure or pump rate as much as possible, but not shut down the pump. You need to see how is the leak at the surface. If the hole is small, like it's called pinhole, like something small, and the check valve is holding, so you have bleed pressure. So now the check valve is holding pressure, no build up at the surface for pressure. In this case, you are in safe little bit condition. So you can, if possible, you can pull out till pinhole on the reel. Let's come to the reel. Close the slip and pipe ram and lock manually. You can, in this case, temporarily fix or repair the leak with coil connector. This is according to the API. You can only have temporary fix with coil connector at the surface in case of only you need to be able to continue pulling out a hole safely, as not to continue our operation. You need to change the reel completely and check, replace it with new one, but we need to continue. So we have temporary coil connector, re-establish pumping, open BOB rams, pull out to the surface here. So you need to replace and check hole the reel. Maybe you have another pinhole, or in some area you have wear in the reel or the coil tubing in the reel. So you need to make full replacement for the reel with new one. Number 4, if the hole is large, little bit, and there is severe leak, and the check valve here is still holding. So you will not have any build up more at the surface for the pressure, but you have leak at the surface. So in this situation, you will, instead of pulling out, so you will continue run inside the hole, position the leak point between the stripper. So the stripper from above is sealing from outside, and the pipe ram. So you close the pipe ram, so you fix the or you replace or place the area for the leak between the stripper and the closed pipe ram. So here you will close slip and pipe ram look manually. In this case, second option, you need to kill the well, pull out to surface to have zero or control from the leak at surface, pull out to surface. You need to make full replacement for the coil tubing reel. So usually the second option here also, you need to kill the well if you cannot. And number 3, deal with the problem. Number 5, which is the last option usually, if the hole is large, severe leak, you have H2S, and at the same time the check valve is not holding pressure. You have continual build up pressure at the surface, so you know the check valve is not holding. In this case, this is the worst scenario. You need to cut the pipe with the last option, which is shear seal ram. Secure the well, drop the coil tubing inside the well, prepare for fishing operation. Usually, from time to time, we need to inspect or make full inspection for the coil tubing to detect any defects, so you will not have any problem like pinhole or crack during the operation. And usually monitoring the parameters while operation, because if you have leak in the string, you will have drop in the pump pressure during the operation. Go to the next one. Coil tubing now is cut or parted between the reel and injector. Like here, as the surface you have cut. So in this case, you have long crack. From the crack, you have weak, and you have cut in the coil tubing on the surface. So the rest here for the coil tubing can be dropped inside the well. So what is the, or what are the correct actions? Here, number 1, attempt to spool as much coil tubing back to the reel again. Close, slip, and pipe ram and look manually. So you will hang the rest of the coil tubing by the slip and pipe ram. If the downhole check valve are holding, so no escape for the fluid at the surface, attempt to mechanically connect the broken piece of the coil or repair. That means you need to hang one operator by crane, and he can start to fix or connect the coil tubing at the surface. So you'll be able only to pulling out of the hole to change the coil tubing reel. If possible, then pull out carefully. Then you need to change the reel for the coil tubing for sure. If downhole check valve are not holding, so you have out of control flow at the surface, then the last option here, you will shear the pipe with shear seal, or if you don't have shear seal in ribbing up, you will have to shear with the shear ram in the quad BOB. Prepare to kill and make fishing operation. Any question?
All good.
No.
Good.
Okay, we'll continue. Now here we have another scenario. Coil tubing is parted between the injector and stripper assembly. So close the slip ram, close the shear ram for the quad BOB to check if the coil tubing remained across the shear ram or dropped below the BOB. So you need to check there is coil tubing across the BOB or all is dropped inside the well, because the cut is between the injector and the stripper in the vertical section or vertical area for the coil tubing. If there is no coil tubing across the BOB, close the blind ram just to seal the well and discuss the situation. Sure, the situation will be fishing or fishing operation. If there is coil tubing across the BOB, so you need to close the safety head above the Christmas tree. You will drop the coil tubing, bleed off any pressure after you secure this Christmas tree. Remove the injector and discuss the options for fishing job. Usually monitoring the parameters also. If you have parted string, you will sure have drop in the pump pressure, and also you will see drop in the string weight little bit. I think this last coil tubing emergency procedure, coil tubing parted downhole. You have cut for the coil tubing above the bottom hole assembly. So in this case, you lose your check valve, which is a primary barrier, internal barrier. In this case, how you know that the coil tubing is parted? You will see increase in the surface pressure, a drop in the pump pressure, and the weight little bit to drop for the coil tubing. So we'll stop coil tubing movement, close the well to check the well head pressure is below the maximum allowable working pressure of the coil tubing or not. 3, establish the estimated depths. You can estimate the depths of the parted coil tubing from the string weight or from software program. Kill the well from the coil tubing or from the low T. Confirm the well is dead. Pull out of hole. Why we need to kill the well? Because the coil tubing is cut above the bottom hole assembly. Pull out of hole slowly till the coil tubing parted section to come above the Christmas tree. Here you need to close 3 all valves and count the turn to establish coil tubing is above. Once coil tubing is above, you will close all the upper and lower master valves. Depressurize the riser. Make sure 0 pressure. Pull the end of the parted coil tubing to the surface. Prepare for sure for fish the lost coil tubing. And the same here, parted string will cause more drop in pump pressure, more than the leak point. And you need to check the string weight. So that's why from every 1000 feet, you need to make pull test to check the pressures and to check the weight for the string. Okay, any question?
No.
Okay, thank you. This is was the last point in the coil tubing course. Thank you very much.